Hey, Rob Wagner here from ebusinessloanleads.com, and I'm going to do a video on Underwriting 101 and how to deal and work with funders. Hey, it's a topic that we don't really talk a whole lot about, but it's an important one. So let's just jump right in, and I'll give you my tips, and then we'll go from there. So tip number one, know the process of your funders. You risk looking like an idiot in front of your borrower, your business, your merchant that wants money if you have to keep coming back and saying, hey, I need this, I need that, you got to close that loan and when they get approval. So you want to look like you know what you're doing and they can have some confidence in you as a person that the deal is going to go through. So make sure you know the process. Tip number two, each funder is going to be different. Know the nuances of the funders and know what they're looking for. It's not that difficult to kind of pick up on those things, but you'll learn over time some of the nuances and what they're looking for and how to present a loan package to them. Tip number three, don't cut corners. It's important that you don't cut corners, because if you do, what happens is the underwriters aren't going to want to deal with your pre-quals or aren't going to want to deal with trying to get funding for your businesses. So don't cut corners. If a funder and an underwriter wants a certain way, a certain flow of what the document should be, maybe they want it in just an email. Here's the high points. Maybe they want it in a Word doc. Maybe they have their own upload that they want you to do. Whatever the case may be, give it to them and don't cut corners. And God forbid, don't make stuff up. If somebody says, I have $10,000 worth of deposits a month, don't put down 15 and stretch it, because these are pre-quals, and you're going to have to prove it at the end of the process that they say yes. You're going to have to prove that they do have that. So don't just cut corners just to get a loan pre-approved, because it's not going to work in the long run. Don't send deals that won't work. If you blatantly know that a deal is not going to work, why put it in and waste your underwriter's time? Now, there's some things you should keep in mind there. If you're new and you're not sure and you don't know for sure, then go ahead and put it in because you're not sure. But if you know for sure that somebody's looking for 50 grand, they don't have any deposits, it's just not going to work. Don't waste your underwriter's time with something that's not going to work. It's not a good idea. If they don't do that type of loan, it's okay to say, do you do this type of loan? This is what the borrower's looking for. But if they don't do it, don't submit it to them. So don't knowingly just throw stuff up against the wall and see if it sticks, because after a while, the underwriters are going to get tired of hearing from you. And you don't want that. Show some favoritism. I know we're not supposed to do that, but do it. If you have 3 different types of loans that you're doing and you have, different lenders for each type, have a couple lined up for each different type. If you have 3, you might have 6 different lenders that you deal with on a regular basis. But have your main one, show favoritism to your main one, and have a backup. So what I would suggest is if you have a pre-qual, you take that, you want to get a pre-qual, submit it to your 2 lenders in that category and get your pre-qual. And then whichever one comes back with the best loan, that's the one you present to the business owner. But, show favoritism, work with just a handful. If you're working with too many, it gets confusing, makes your job harder, and you don't build that long-term relationship. So show some favoritism. Tell the story. This is another important one. I forgot what number we're on, but tell the story of your borrower, of your business. We forget to do that sometimes. And sometimes it's the funder's fault. It's the underwriter's fault. Say, hey, we don't want to know. We don't need to know all the, the story of the background of the business. That's a bunch of bunk. If you tell the story about a business, people are human and they're emotional, and it might make the difference between getting a loan approved or maybe some type of loan approved. Maybe it's not exactly what the borrower wants, but At least you get them something and help them out, and then can come back and create a plan for later on. But don't forget to tell a story, even if it's just a few sentences or a short paragraph about the background of the business. It helps. Even if they say it doesn't, it does. Set expectations with the borrower, with the business. If it's going to take 5 days to do something, don't tell them it's going to be ready in 3. So set the proper expectations. Don't mislead them and tell them you can do something that you can't do. Don't purposely mislead them. This is very nuanced. So let me explain. If you're dealing with somebody who needs $100,000 and you say, look, I know that the underwriters are only going to give you 75 before you get a prequal, that might not be the best approach, because somebody else is going to say yes, because the business wants 100,000. Somebody's going to come along and say, we can get you 100,000. They might yank that out from under them at the last minute and say, I'm sorry, but here's your 75, which may be exactly what you could do for them up front. But determining some of those details, that's not your job. That's the underwriter's job. So don't get confused when you say set the expectations. Set the expectations that the underwriter is going to make the decision. You'll present it to them. But don't say no that you can't do something if it's going to be close, because somebody else will come along and say yes, and they'll get the deal and you won't. But make sure that you try to explain to the best of your ability exactly what the process is and how it's going to work for them. And that comes to the last one, which is create a process. So everything that you do, from your daily routine to when, and this is probably the most important thing, is when somebody says to you, what's the next steps? Move it forward. You have a process ready to go. Well, here's the next steps. Here's what we're going to do next. Don't make it up. Don't make it up on the fly. Take a half hour, sit down and say, okay, well, I'm going to write a checklist and create that checklist. I'm going to need X, Y, and Z. I'm going to make sure that I tell them, some of the time frames and how long that's going to take. And then however that works for you, however you want to work that out, that's how you should do it. But create that process and then work on that process as time goes by. But make sure that you have that process in place. And it doesn't take long to do. You know what the underwriters are looking for, what information. Put that on your checklist. Go down through the checklist. So when somebody says, what's the next step, you have a very confident answer for them. So that's my tips on dealing with funders and underwriting. I hope this helps a little bit. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, this is Rob from ebusinessloanleads.com. Good luck and hope you close more loans.